Hi, I'm Sydney Thompson, and this is Miss Martin from Eagle Heights Elementary.
Hello?
So, first question: how does a student receive special education?
Most students have to be, well, all students have to be qualified, and they have to go. They have this long criteria they have to meet for the services. A student, maybe they're receiving RTI services, response to intervention, and they're not making the progress that is expected, and so there's got to be something in the way, something that they're thinking that there might be that they would not need evaluation to see if something's in the way. So this is just one way of getting a student qualified. We have a conference with the parent as a committee. Usually it's the parent, it's me, special ed teacher, their gen ed teacher, and usually our principal also attends. And we get together and we look over all the data to see if maybe and determine if he needs an evaluation. At that time, I will get permission to test. When the parent has to give permission. And we have 60 days to get that testing completed. From the date of the consent to the date of the last component of the test, you have 60 days.
Is there a reason for the 60 days?
That's how long it takes sometimes. Sometimes it takes those 60 days. Sometimes we can get it done in but a little bit of time. But I'm not the one who does it. Well, we all the components from everybody. The parent has to fill out questionnaires. The teacher has stuff to fill out, questionnaires and data sheets and stuff. I got to do some testing on my own. Then all that data, all those components are put together and sent over to like a child psychologist. Here is Dr. Nichols. He takes all that data, he takes it together, and then he looks it over, and then he comes down and he tests the student. He'll test the IQ. Every student has to have an IQ test. The IQ is your ability to learn. So they have to know what they're able to do. And then they do achievement testing. And reading, math, writing, kind of see where they're performing in conjunction to their ability. And then I use that data that's just one part of it, but I do everything together. When he's done, he sends it to me, the report. And then we as a committee review the report, and we decide if this child does need services in either reading, writing, math. Maybe they're autistic. Maybe the behaviors are interfering in those. Maybe they're considered other health impairment, which is maybe they have ADHD or ADD. That is also an issue that we need to do. All this stuff we decided as a committee, the parent, the teachers, the principals, everybody in that committee, if this child does need services. And if he does qualify, then we get him place for services. But that's a big rigmarole. It's a time span on that.
So. Can you explain what an IEP is exactly?
An IEP is an individualized education plan. These are for those special ed students who are placed, and to work on those goals. We get those goals for them to meet. Like if a student maybe is very low in math, and he qualified for me in math, I'll put a go. He's missing those blocks, the stepping stones he gets before he to learn a new skill. Maybe he didn't get that beginning skill, so we'll start back to where he needs to start, to where he can start getting those skills. And we take our time. Whereas classroom, you just kind of go and go and go. I don't go on to a new skill so he's got that one skill down. So we go at his pace.
Okay. So you talked about the committee. So who makes the IEP? The specifics of everyone in the committee.
Yes, everybody has a part in the IEP. I'm a teacher. I usually write up the IEP, but everybody puts in their 2 cents maybe. The parent maybe the parent has something that she wants to say about it, or he wants to say, maybe they want to go for that child, their behavior goal or something. A teacher may have something, it really needs to work on this too. We all have our own, we all as a committee complete the IEP together.
Okay. So let's say someone has a learning disability,
Uh-huh.
or autism. Is there specific people that will be in there also? Like,
if they also, because they can qualify for other areas, related areas, because that speech is a related area. Occupational therapy is a related area for those fine motor skills. PT is an area that's for those gross motor skills, and OT, PT, speech, and sometimes there's behavior areas too. But that's mostly done by the teachers. But we all, if he qualifies in those areas, then he does get services in those areas.
Okay. So, what part do the parents play when making the IEP? So,
Well, they have to attend every meeting. They have to sign when they come in. We all sign a record of access, and whenever we open that folder up, we sign. Sometimes open that folder up. The only ones who have access to that folder is those committee members. That's it. The parents are a huge part of that. They help develop everything because they know the behavior of their child. No one knows that child better than its parents, and so we take what they say as gold because they're really the main person besides that child.
So when you're making the IEP, you said you make it. What goes into it?
Everything that I talked about, all those components, all the data we put together, I put that all in there because when you look up at your IEP, this is the student. This is what he's able to do. So you open up the page, and you should be able to read the student and be able to see the student in your head when you're reading it. This is the areas he's low in. This is his strengths. This is what he needs to work on. It's all behaviors. It's all in there. IEP is anybody who comes in. If you were to come in and look at an IEP, you should be able to read this IEP and say, "I can see this child in my head. And I know what his problems are." And you can work with that child.
Yeah. Okay. Explain how the IEPs help the students that they're created for. How does it help?
Well, mostly the special ed, you have to have an IEP for special ed, but it helps them as it puts them on a level. When you're in second or third grade, say you're in third grade, but you're reading at a first grade level, there's a huge gap there. And doing third grade work is impossible to do that. So when they come to special ed, it's more on their level. We call it instructional level. Let's say he reads at a 1.5. I will conduct our reading lessons at about a 1.8 or to 2.0 reading level, where he's able to read it, but this is a little bit harder for him, so he can learn.
So, once the student receives an IEP, who implements it?
I do.
You do?
Everybody does, and we as a committee do that. Well, I do that. The gen ed teachers, they have accommodations and modifications that they have to do in the IEP. We as a committee get those. It's like, how do we want this child to be able to? How is he able to perform in the classroom, and what does he need to help him be as equal as the other students in the classroom? And that's what accommodations and modifications are for. And so the gen ed teacher has to do that kind of stuff too. But we implement it as a committee, or I do as a teacher.
So you talked about the modifications for the general education teacher. How does that affect them a lot? Does that affect them in their lesson plan in the daily classroom? What do you mean?
It depends. Depends on accommodations. Like, so one of my biggest accommodations I do is that we adjust materials for functional use. When you're reading at first grade level, you can't read the third grade level stuff. So sometimes spelling words is a big thing with that. I don't have my kids with writing and spelling, be able to spell third grade words. That they do spelling on first grade words. Also, repeat the question one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
Once if the students are in the general education classroom, the modifications that go along with it.
Right.
So how does that affect the teachers? It could affect you. How does that affect?
Well, the teacher has to implement them, and they have to prove that they have too. They have to binder to show that they've done this every quarter. Like small group testing, when they start their testing, they might wait for the child and then pull him back by himself and then read the test to him. And that's an accommodation. It's whatever they can do to make this child as equal as the other students there in the classroom.
Awesome. Okay. So does the special ed teacher and the general education teacher, do they have to work together often?
Always, yes. Okay, because we communicate on a daily basis with each other. If there's problems in the classroom, they'll come to me and want to know what they can do. And I gotta go to them too. Well, how is he doing? What do we need to do in here to make it easier for him in that classroom? Because we want him in the classroom as much as possible. Having to pull out, they're missing a lot of core things. But the more we have them in there, the better off it is. And so, but a lot of times we have to pull them for placement.
Do you guys share lesson plans? Do you
Not
work
really.
together?
No,
you
we've
guys
got two different areas
Gotcha.
going.
Okay, so let's say they're in kindergarten. They're working on kindergarten things in there, but if he's falling behind or he's not meeting the standards, do you work on those in here specifically?
I actually have a kindergarten student who comes in, and I only have him for reading.
Okay.
And when you're in kindergarten, you're really not quite reading yet. So what they do is, because kindergarten does, the letter of the week, I bring him in half an hour a day, and I reinforce that.
Okay.
Where he may have 30 minutes in there for the week, and he has another 30 minutes in here for reading. And we go with the same letters, the same stuff that they do in there. All I do is reinforce right now. Okay. That's what, because they are so little.
Yes, they are. So, does the student get to be a part of the IEP process whenever you're making it, or do they get to go
Not until
to the
he's older.
meetings?
Not till they're older.
What age does that start?
Usually that's about transition time. When the child reaches the age of 18, he is in charge of his IEP. But we begin at a little bit younger than that, where we'll start bringing them in. I do K4, so the older kids I'm really not knowledgeable about. But I do know that at 18 is the child is in charge of the IEP. They have to sign it themselves in.
Gotcha. So last question. Can you explain what happens when all the goals are met with the IEP that's stated on it for the year, and what happens when it is not met?
Okay. Every year we have an annual review time. We do ours in May every year. And we review the goals and my progress that I've done. I look at my data. Okay, well, he's met this one, which is right. He's mastered that. So that one, he's completed. But but you know what? He needs to work on this go a bit more. And then you know what? To get this to do here in 4th grade, maybe he needs to do something else here. So we adjust. Whenever he's ready, when he's reading on a 4th grade, if he's a 4th grader and he's reading a 4th grade level, and the gaps is a lot smaller, then he can be dismissed. But to dismiss, we have to test to dismiss.
Thank you so much for
No problem.
doing this with me.
That was helpful.